In 2015, Elizabeth Holmes was on the covers of magazines like Fortune and Forbes, hailed as the next Steve Jobs. She wore black turtlenecks, spoke with authority, and had a vision that seemed revolutionary. A machine that could run hundreds of medical tests from just a single drop of blood. By 31 years old, she was worth $9 billion. By 32, she was facing prison. This is the shocking truth behind one of history's most spectacular billion-dollar failures, a cautionary tale that transformed Silicon Valley forever. The dream that became a nightmare. Elizabeth Holmes founded Theranos in 2003 at just 19 years old, while still a student at Stanford University. She dropped out to pursue her vision full-time, convinced she had discovered something world-changing. Her idea was elegant and powerful: reduce the cost, time, and pain of blood tests through a compact automated device called the Edison machine. The company name itself came from combining the words therapy and diagnosis. The young entrepreneur demonstrated remarkable confidence and charisma that attracted attention from day one. Investors were captivated. Over the next decade, Holmes raised more than $700 million from wealthy backers, including Walton family members, Betsy DeVos, Rupert Murdoch, and Robert Kraft. Major venture capital firms poured in hundreds of millions more. By 2004, venture capital firm Draper Fisher Jurvetson had invested $500,000. The money kept flowing as Holmes refined her pitch and cultivated relationships with powerful figures. At its peak in 2013 and 2014, Theranos was valued at $9 billion. Holmes was celebrated as the youngest self-made female billionaire in the United States. The promise was intoxicating: fast, cheap, accurate blood tests that would completely disrupt an entire industry. Patients loved the idea of finger stick testing instead of traditional needle sticks. Doctors saw tremendous potential for better patient outcomes. Hospitals saw opportunities to reduce costs. Investors saw the future of healthcare, and they wanted a piece of it. Everything seemed absolutely perfect, destined for success. But behind the scenes, something was deeply, fundamentally, catastrophically wrong. The Edison machine simply did not work, not even remotely. The technology that Theranos claimed could perform over 200 different blood tests could barely perform a fraction of that number. In reality, most tests that the company advertised could not actually run on the Edison device at all. The few results it did produce were wildly inaccurate and unreliable, sometimes dangerously so. Instead of abandoning the flawed project or being honest with investors and patients about the limitations, Holmes and her partner Ramesh Balwani doubled down on an escalating campaign of deception. They repurposed commercially available blood testing equipment manufactured by other companies and secretly ran tests on those machines, keeping this massive secret from every stakeholder. When the Edison machine produced flawed results, employees were instructed to delete them and run the same test again, creating a false impression that the device was far more accurate than it actually was. To impress investors, Theranos submitted falsified reports showing dramatically inflated revenues that bore no relationship to actual earnings. They added logos of major pharmaceutical companies to marketing materials and investor presentations, falsely suggesting business partnerships and endorsements that did not exist. They even lied to investors about their technology being deployed in Afghanistan, inventing military relationships and uses to make the company seem more credible and valuable. The company also signed major contracts with retail pharmacy chains like Walgreens and Safeway, meaning hundreds of thousands of patients took unreliable tests without knowing the results could be dangerously inaccurate and potentially harmful to their health. The cracks in the foundation. The first serious challenge came in 2015 when investigative journalist John Carreyrou from the Wall Street Journal began asking difficult questions about Theranos' claims. His investigation was methodical and thorough, interviewing former employees and speaking with whistleblowers who could no longer stay silent. Carreyrou discovered the uncomfortable truth. The entire foundation of Theranos' business model was built on a lie. In October 2015, the Wall Street Journal published a damaging investigation revealing that Theranos' core claims were false and the company had been using traditional equipment from other manufacturers. Medical professionals questioned Theranos' methods. Government agencies launched investigations. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services conducted an audit and found the laboratory posed immediate jeopardy to patient health and safety. The FDA raised serious concerns. State authorities in Arizona sued, claiming Theranos had sold 1.5 million blood tests to Arizona residents while concealing critical information about reliability. Real patients suffered real consequences. One Arizona resident named Aaron Tompkins received a false positive result for HIV antibodies at a Walgreens using Theranos technology. Another patient's medication was changed based on inaccurate results, leading to a heart attack. These were lives affected by fraud. As the scandal grew, Holmes tried to salvage her company by shifting strategies. She unveiled a smaller device called Minilab and repositioned Theranos as a research and development company. It was too little, too late. In January 2016, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services revoked Theranos' license to operate its California laboratory and banned Holmes from running any blood testing lab for 2 years. The company laid off over 300 employees and closed its clinical labs and wellness centers. In 2018, the company dissolved completely after operating for 15 years. Justice and Consequences in March 2018, the Securities and Exchange Commission filed civil fraud charges against Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes, and her partner, Ramesh Balwani. Holmes settled the charges by paying $500,000, forfeiting 18.9 million shares of company stock, and accepting a 10-year ban from serving as an officer or director of any public company. But civil settlement was not enough. In June 2018, a federal grand jury indicted both Holmes and Balwani on multiple counts of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Their trials stretched across years, becoming one of the most closely watched cases in tech industry history. In January 2022, after months of testimony and evidence, Holmes was found guilty on 4 counts, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud investors and 3 counts of wire fraud tied to specific investors. She was acquitted on charges related to defrauding patients, though the jury deadlocked on some counts. In November 2022, Holmes was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. She was ordered to surrender on April 27, 2023, and began serving her sentence at a federal facility in Bryan, Texas. Her partner Balwani faced even stiffer consequences, being convicted on all 12 counts brought against him and sentenced to 12 years and 11 months in prison. The once celebrated Silicon Valley entrepreneur and her partner became symbols of corporate fraud, deception, and unchecked ambition. The lessons nobody should ignore the Theranos story reveals something unsettling about how we celebrate innovation and entrepreneurship. Holmes cultivated celebrity status deliberately, gracing magazine covers and speaking at high-profile conferences. But as business experts note, if you build something truly great, celebrity will find you naturally. You should not chase it aggressively from the start. Her board included influential figures like former Secretaries of State Henry Kissinger and George Shultz, and former Defense Secretary James Mattis, yet none of them had scientific expertise or relevant startup experience. They could not ask the right technical questions or hold Holmes effectively accountable. The job of a board is to serve as a resource, challenge the CEO constructively, and ensure proper governance, especially in early-stage companies. This board failed spectacularly at all 3 responsibilities. Investors who poured hundreds of millions of dollars into Theranos claimed they relied on Holmes's charisma, the company's impressive board composition, and the promise of healthcare disruption to validate the technology. They conducted minimal due diligence beyond surface-level facts. They asked few tough questions about how the technology actually worked. They were seduced by the promise of disruption and the novelty of a young female founder in a male-dominated industry. The hype became the truth. Then reality arrived, and it was catastrophic. Theranos destroyed trust in healthcare startups and medical innovation. It damaged the reputations of major investors who backed it. It harmed patients who received false medical information that affected their treatment decisions. It squandered investor capital that could have funded legitimate innovation and helpful technologies. and it sent a powerful message about the consequences of choosing fraud over business failure, dishonesty over integrity. Today, investors have become more disciplined about startup funding, demanding better proof of technology before writing massive checks. Board members now ask tougher questions. Whistleblower protections have strengthened significantly, but as recent scandals demonstrate, the vulnerabilities remain. Greed, ambition, and the pressure to succeed can still push otherwise intelligent people toward deception. Elizabeth Holmes believed she could fake it until she made it. Instead, she made it to federal prison. The Theranos story is a reminder that in business, in innovation, and in life, shortcuts always cost more than the long way around. The truth eventually emerges, and when it does, everything built on lies crumbles.